Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful weekend as we're winding down and getting ready to march into March. So today we are in store for a great presentation from the Center for Advanced Technology Solutions by MEP. So I don't want to prolong the time because very excited to hear from our colleagues. So I'll pass it to Matt Bogosian for some updates.
Great, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle Burris from the Century Foundation. And I see Andy Stetner is on also from the Century Foundation, our BFFs and co-founders. I'm Matt Bogosian, Executive Director of AMCC, and this is our weekly national Monday call. It's been happening for about 10 years, and every Monday morning, 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central, 9:30 Mountain, and 8:30 Pacific time, where we get together a bunch of busy professionals from the public, private, nonprofit sectors, all working in regions around the country to strengthen the manufacturing cornerstone of our economy and key industries. And this 30-minute call is just a brief way to stay in contact while we do the good hard work in our particular ecosystem and the silo within the ecosystem where we happen to operate in one of the big six areas that are important to strengthen our manufacturing sector. We do this weekly 30-minute call, and then we also have a weekly AMCC newsletter. These two things go hand in hand, and the AMCC update, we call it, is David Van Sicklen, our operations director, puts together that draft with so much good information from stakeholders like you guys across the country who are feeding us, events and grant opportunities and articles to share about best practices and things that we need to do better in this country to thrive in the 21st century. So those two things weekly happen together. We also do, a podcast, and we have this ecosystem metrics playbook that David can drop into the chat, right? So we're bringing an evidence-based approach to the complex manufacturing community ecosystems that we have out there. We can tackle this thing, but it's going to take time and effort, dedication to the best evidence. So check out this 1.0 version of the playbook. We hopefully, I'm here in Washington, D.C. at this International Economic Development Conference talking about the playbook because we want to socialize it and get to a point where every region can self-assess the strengths and weaknesses of their manufacturing community ecosystem of support. So a lot of cool things coming out there. One of the other things we do, which is a segue, to our speakers today. We have two flavors of calls: a roundtable where people just chime in throughout our half hour, and other times we have a presentation for 10 or 15 minutes by an important part of the ecosystem. Some of you have presented, and we encourage you, if you haven't presented yet, and you have something of value for regional leaders to hear about across the country, please talk to David Van Sicklen, and we can get you on the calendar for a Monday. But today is a presentation day, so I'm excited about introducing our speakers there in a second to talk about kind of intensive help in the manufacturing sectors. But before that, to be consistent with what we do every week, we like to take a few minutes up front for people that are new and haven't introduced themselves before, or people that it's been a while, they want to reintroduce themselves to say hello, where you're from in the ecosystem of support or region around the country. Deb Killmeyer, I haven't seen you before. Welcome. Tell us where you are. Yeah.
I knew you were going to do that. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm a project consultant, been in workforce for many years, was a dean at a community college, but now I'm a project consultant with Keystone Development Partnership. And I'm working on a grant that is through Department of Defense, through Jobs for the Future, and they contracted with Keystone Development Partnership, and we are reaching out to all the forging and casting manufacturers across the state of Pennsylvania and offering a technical assistance at no cost to them to either help them start an apprenticeship program, reinvigorate it, recruit people into it, work on training plans, and we have up to $24,000 of funding for forging and casting, and that would be 6 individuals up to 4,000 to help fund and get them started or help them offset costs in apprenticeship
Sweet.
programs. So
That's awesome, Deb. Welcome. Thanks for being
thank you.
on. And if you can give us information, send it to me and David,
Sure.
and we'll put it in the next AMCC update about that opportunity. I think that would be cool. You know, I neglected to mention, you know, put information in the chat. The chat has turned out to be a really useful tool for busy professionals like yourselves to quickly understand what's happening and what's available. So I want to encourage that as well. Let's see, maybe one other. Glenn Tobiasen, welcome.
Hello
I
there.
can't hear you. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks. I was on, I think, a week or two ago. It's been really great. I made some very good contacts. Thank you very much. I'm representing the company Carbotura with the really fantastic way of taking care of waste, any kind of waste. So
Great.
anyone wants to talk about that, please drop me a line in the chat. No cost to the communities or municipalities and no emissions and no energy needed from the grid.
Excellent, Glenn. And in our network, and you are quite welcome, public, private, nonprofit leaders, we've got to figure out how to work better together. At this conference here in Washington with the economic developers, that's what we're talking about, is like, how do we, you know, avoid doing this race to the bottom that we did in the 20th century and get to working together across the country. In the AMCC update, before I turn to our speakers here, in the AMCC update, there's a notice about a meeting that we have here at the National Association of Manufacturers this Wednesday. And David can drop the link to the chat. It's free. It's a discussion about certain manufacturing verticals where state governments, you know, are just like the federal government. They're not the end all be all about the manufacturing ecosystem, but they're an important part of the ecosystem of support that manufacturers need to thrive. And some states have really, of course, leaned into manufacturing, but they don't have a mechanism to communicate with other states, in particular subsector verticals. So this meeting that's happening on Wednesdays to have a beginning discussion about you know, what kind of cohorts can we set up amongst states that have a very strong common interest in a subsector. So think of like shipbuilding, which will be one of the points of discussion, right? There are a handful of of states that have a really important part of the shipbuilding supply chain. So we're going to be talking about the concept in general on Wednesday. If you or yours or folks in your networks are around, you're more than welcome to attend. You can contact us. And there's, of course, plenty more in the AMCC update. So I don't want to go on too much about that, because we have a presentation today and talking about linking the ecosystem of support. So we did a roadshow in Texas in December, and it was great fortune to run into David McFeeters-Crone and Danny Norman from Center for Advanced Technology Solutions, CATS, and we're excited to weave them into the work that we do every week and expose their offering to you all, and hopefully David and Danny, you're on here every week from now on. That's our ambition. So anyway, let me turn it to you guys and tell us about how you guys can add value. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, welcome. And thank you, David and Matt, for having us present today. We have a couple slides. We'll hope there'll be some time for questions at the end. But regardless, I'll make sure that my information and Danny's information is in the chat, so you can contact us afterwards. Again, welcome. I'm David McFeeters-Crone, and I'm here with Danny Norman, representing the Center for Advanced Technology Solutions. We're a nationwide program that's funded out of NIST MEP. We augment the normal capabilities of the 1,400 field staff that are in the 51 centers across the United States and Puerto Rico. We feel we have an interesting, compelling offer through an understanding of technology. We're eager to talk to you individually, your communities, and your individual members on how we might be able to assist them through any production issues they may have or any technology questions they may have that may impact their ability to move forward. Like MEP, we serve U.S. small manufacturers only. We are, again, focused nationwide, and our goal is to be the group that's able to provide actionable information for companies moving forward. We strive ourselves on being extremely fast in finding solutions for companies, and we'll describe to you some of those capabilities in a moment, including some poignant examples. But we often move faster than paper. We fortunately are fully funded at the present time. Our services are free to the client. And even I think if we were to try and paper up these agreements, we probably would beat any lawyers to solutions before they had an ability to actually get our services written down within a contract. We are completely agnostic on technologies. We are very focused on what companies have to say and what their needs are. We do have some very specific skills and understanding of some unique networks, but we're not limited to those. But we do think that those provide us with a great set of solutions and opportunities and partners for companies moving forward. And most of them represent federally funded research of one form or another. So here's our first example. This is a company that was in Tennessee, One Scientific, that was seeking information on getting access to high quality steam. It turned out what they wanted to do was to do steam reforming of natural gas to generate hydrogen. There's a manufacturing USA institute called Rapid, located in New York, that I was familiar with. We have a good relationship with them. We gave them a call to see if there might be some possibilities to solve this company's problem. They connected us up to a company in Virginia. We worked through our MEP in Virginia to get some solid access to them. And as a result, this set of mothballed equipment that was owned by Matric was then made available to our client in Tennessee. So they now have this ability to use it in generating grants, getting additional capital, or actually getting the job done. The impact on that, it was difficult to measure, but significantly more than zero, as we were able to help them move forward with limited funds and accelerate their development dramatically. Daniel will take over the next couple slides, including the next example.
Thank you, David, and thanks, Matt and David, for hosting us today. So this example comes from our friends in Missouri. Bob Beckman came to us with Telema Group, and such a cool company. Like all of our companies are small manufacturing clients. This company makes transformer cores, high-end transformer cores for the Department of Defense, specialty acoustic applications, and they compete, or actually stay out of competition with overseas competitors by offering very complex shaped transformer cores. And as that shape becomes more and more complex, additive processing becomes more cost effective and attractive. But there's a non-negotiable when it comes to this group. They have to have a UL listed material in the core. And believe it or not, as advanced as additive has become over the years, there is no UL listed additively printable material. And so this company came to us with this problem. They had been looking for solutions for years and years with no luck. And we went to work. We have our process, as David mentioned. We've got a great network of solution providers, and we look across the board, and we're able to find some of our friends right here in my own backyard at Oak Ridge, a group of researchers that were dealing with similar issues. And there was a CRADA formed almost over just a couple of phone calls, and the company was on their way. So that was a great example of how this whole thing works. And then, so this kind of, if Dave, if you'll go to the next slide, we'll see kind of the last two examples show us there's really a couple of, actually 4 different components that we want you to keep in mind. So we are a working group. So we solve real problems. We ask our MEP network and others, like the the folks on the call today who are in contact with small manufacturers that have problems that, you know, they may be able to get by today, tomorrow, next week, but over time, they've got to solve these really difficult challenges, and we help make those, bring those solutions to bear in unique ways. We have broad tech awareness. So there's a lot of experts in AI right now. There's a lot of experts in additive that you can call. But each one of those might lead you to a solution that may be, you know, kind of biased towards what they're working on. We're an unbiased group. We look at every possibility and then choose what's best for the small manufacturer. We've talked about, we've got a Rolodex of researchers, and I hope you can tell from these examples how we have a penchant for action. And David on the next slide is going to show you kind of how this comes together a little bit more.
Thank you, Danny. So again, this is our 4th year of the program, and during the first 3, we established a network of over 25 different MEP centers with projects that were done across the United States. Again, we want to stress that even though we are locally housed and run out of Polaris MEP in Rhode Island, we have a nationwide program where we're able to serve clients wherever they are, both geographically, technology, readiness level, whatever it might be. We have a really, I think, outstanding success rate. We're taking whatever comes at us, and with that relatively open door, we were able to solve 2/3 of the items that came to us, with a half of those being surveyable under the MEP normal survey metrics. We work through those local MEPs, so projects that you bring to us, we will then alert our local MEP in that state to make sure they're aware of what we're doing, and we work in conjunction with them at whatever level they think is appropriate. And just to make it, again, just solidly clear, we are locally focused, so we do find a lot of projects, you know, in our backyard, but over half of our projects were outside of a region. So for those of you who may be in one of these states that's not colored in, don't worry, we can work with you, and we'll be delighted to spread this map out tremendously. So where do we go for our solutions? I believe on the call we have at least one person from MXD and perhaps some other institutes. We're very focused on bringing that technology, or more precisely, those communities to bear to help any community that may be within the MEP or yours. We have the 3 founders of the organization spent 2 years very much embedded within 3 to 4 different Manufacturing USA institutes. We are the subject matter experts for the MEP program, so we're able to bring those capabilities to bear for our clients. In addition, we have some expertise in working with the U.S. Federal Lab System. For those of you who aren't aware, there are over 350 facilities across the United States, spending over $150 billion in R&D every single year, with a secondary mission to assist small manufacturers with their issues, as it may be. Anyone can access them. We just have pretty good line of sight on where the good places to go are and decent relationships to move those projects forward. Like Danny said, we formed a cooperative research and development agreement, a CRADA, with Oak Ridge. We've also done work with NIST, of course, with CRADAs, and also the USDA. Personally, I've done a number of CRADAs with a number of the DoD service organizations, as well as NASA. The last group we bring to bear, of course, are the MEP groups themselves. There are 1,400 field staff. We have connections with them, obviously, because we work within the network. They have a wide range of skills, and we're able to access those for quick answers, for connections to vendors, technologies, etc. We are not the experts on solving the problem. We're the experts at finding the experts to make that happen. I just want to stress that we are never the smartest person in the room, which gives us great freedom and ability to be able to cross cultural divides and just get to the answers as fast as possible. Danny will take over the next slide.
Yeah, so just real quick, thanks, David. The point of this slide is just to show you that that we do what we say. We're not really trying to address solutions with one specific type of technology or discipline. We address them across. These are all the solutions you can see that we've used to address issues on the plant floor. That's all this slide means. So, so this is what we'd like to really leave with you is give us a call. Most of the time we have we can at least help in some way. And please note, here's a few different ways or reasons why you would call us. But there's just so much out there that small manufacturers are struggling with. They've got a lot on their mind, and we can help in a lot of different ways. And would love to get to know you better, and would love to hear from you on how we might be able to help. All right. And then we've just got one more slide. So a lot of people will ask us, well, how do we know how to get started, or how would we identify a problem like this? Most people, especially manufacturers, most of them have really a scientific mind. They're trying to figure problems out, but you can kind of see there's, we'll talk to people in a lot of different roles within the organization. All of them have unique problems, and they're trying to come at the problems that they have in unique ways. And so if you have a contact with someone like this at a small manufacturer, chances are be a good connection to make with us. And then finally, we've just got some contact information here. I cover the Southeast. David, generally covers the Northwest and West, but we're all just a big team that works together. If you call us and introduce us to a center or anyone, most of the time it'll be most of us on that call together. But happy to field calls or actually just go ahead and field questions if anybody has any.
Well, yeah, this is great, Danny and David. Thank you so much for this. Lots of questions, I'm sure, come to everybody's mind. Yeah, you mentioned about the labs and our institutes of innovation there. We have some of those on the call. I actually see Jack Kotowski from Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. We did AMCC Roadshow out there, and so wondering kind of what does how do there's all these innovations coming out of these resources, these federal resources, and how do they get translated to the manufacturers? What's an example of a use case that you guys have enabled in terms of taking some of these new technologies coming out of one of the institutes or the labs and helping manufacturers in a region? Yeah.
Well, good morning, all. I'm Jack Kotowski at Lawrence Livermore. I'll just chime in. Thanks for the call out. I'll give one example. We have a Livermore Valley open campus adjacent to our Lawrence Livermore National Lab. That's a space dedicated to trying to work more closely with external partners, where outside of our fence line, we partner perhaps to co-develop, for example, a recipe on a new additive manufacturing tool, as an example. And so our advanced manufacturing lab is a space, new building space dedicated for lab staff to work intimately in partnership with external resources to try to help translate technology out of the lab or co-develop and allow technology to leave the lab, but also benefit lab missions. So I'm happy to elaborate on our Livermore Valley Open Campus Advanced Manufacturing Lab. And that's an example. We have others where we're always trying to translate technologies and intellectual property from our lab to benefit the U.S. economy. Over.
Great, thanks, Jack. And Danny and David, I suspect that'll deserve some follow-up there, as it would with all of those labs. I mean, gosh, I don't know how you guys keep track of all of those federal resources in terms of developing new technologies.
Hey, Matt,
yeah,
I see a question in the chat from Bijou.
Oh, please. Oh, Bijou, hey, from Texas. Welcome, Bijou.
Yeah, so I see the question there, and it's a great one. So we would work with our ecosystems of partners around that small manufacturer and in that state. So we let the MEP take the lead on the relationship and building out what the scope of work would be and how that's funded. And so it's really a case-by-case basis on how all the funding and everything works out.
Well, what kind of ceiling do you guys have on the services you provide? I mean, I'm worried that you guys are going to get inundated with requests. Like, how does that? What's the the funnel? How does that work? Yeah.
You know, we move things through our case very fast, so we don't have a lot of sticking points. I would say usually the problem results on the company side. They're the ones thinking the hardest on some of these issues. So if we have a motivated client, we can get them through to, you know, a meeting and have them be effectively self-serve from that point forward. I mean, we're there to make sure that things are still happening, because that's a key part of it, is not just tossing people through the transom, but making sure that relationships truly happen and you know, matriculate in some sort of meaningful way. In terms of a cap on time, we haven't run into that yet. We look forward to being overwhelmed. We are also eager to help people within the defense industrial base, and we believe that once that starts to happen, we'll have a compelling case, even in this environment, to talk to our defense partners about how we can expand the program to absorb any additional work.
Great. So Bijou had a follow-up question. Do you build out to say production scale from pilot or lab scale?
So
That's
all of
true.
the above. So we go ahead, Dave.
No, you do it.
Yeah, so all of the above. So really what we're focused on is getting the project moving. A lot of these projects, they stall out. They don't have time to even find the expert. And then what we do is just get those experts back in contact with the small manufacturers, and then they scope it out. They scope out the funding, they scope out the type of project, whether it's going to be full production scale or whatever that's going to look like. We've got hundreds of projects like this, and each one of them is a little bit different.
And like Danny said before, I mean, some of that work, like doing the scale up, that's generally better suited for the MEPs centers that are right there in that state. They almost all have experts that can make that sort of behavior happen.
Right.
And indeed, like the main difference between what I'd say an MEP center does and what we do is the MEP centers are there generally for longer term implementation work. So, you know, they'll be there maybe for a half a day or a day a week over a couple of months for something like that. Whereas, as Danny mentioned, we're there to push the project forward. That example he gave about Telema, that had been sort of sitting on the shelf for, you know, a year or two. They just sort of been stalled out. They didn't really know where to go. They had other things they're working on. They're, you know, they were making enough money, but too busy. So we come in, we find a way to sort of compartmentalize the project and sort of force them to pay attention. And then they make the decision to move forward because we've effectively de-risked it from a time perspective.
Great, David. Well, thank you. And thank you, Danny, for coming on and being a part of the AMCC community on our half-hour call. We keep them just at a half hour because folks are super busy. It's that kind of connectivity thread where we don't overimpose. But we encourage folks to follow up. These guys put their emails in the chat. So if you like what you heard, and I suspect most folks would, I would urge you to grab those emails and follow up to help your manufacturers in regions around the country. Lots of good stuff. We appreciate you both being on and participating, and we appreciate all of you for being on our weekly calls. And please send us info that can go into the AMCC update that goes out at the end of the week. That is a super useful tool. And we'll be back. David, what do we have on deck for the next few weeks on our Monday 30-minute national calls?
Yeah, thanks for that, Matt. I believe next week we'll have a roundtable, and then I've got most of March filled with presentations. So we have quite a few things coming up, and you can read all about it in that update.
Great. All right, we are at the top of the hour. Thanks all. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.